those who are not with us. In fact, you'll all have it, won't you? So, everyone's okay, are they? No. Okay. Well, when we do some rolling around, perhaps put a blanket or something underneath it. Just to... Have you done something? Let's see if we can ease it out. Right, I've got a lovely moving, keeping with the idea of the lateral lines, so the sides of the body. So this will be perhaps quite good for that. We're going to start in seated. So everybody just grab a block or a blanket, something to put underneath you. You're sitting right behind my camera, and so it's only up to you if you want. So you kind of squeeze into here, or it's all right. Good. Just make sure that I can. That's better. No, Michelle often does it. Sits straight behind my camera, like, and then I feel bad that you. Yeah. No. I know you don't think about it. Then I feel bad that you can't see me or see you. Okay. And let's just come and sit for a moment. The world has been so fizzy around us. It's quite nice just to create that moment of stillness in our own lives, that we have the wherewithal and strength to move on through it. So just checking into the breath. Just seeing that lovely inhale as it passes through over the upper lip and into the nostrils. Maybe you can exhale it out of the nostrils. If you find the back is getting really tired here, or it's just really rounding, might be an idea to even lift the support underneath the hips a little bit more. And over time, as you sit on a chair or on the floor a little bit more, the back will start to strengthen a bit. It can be helpful to draw the lower belly just towards the spine, and that creates a little bit more stability around the core area. And obviously, if it becomes uncomfortable, just open the legs out. We're going to move around a little bit as we check in with the breathing, and just try and move with the breath. So, we're going to take one breath and breathe into one movement, and then breathe through the next movement. Don't worry too much about whether it's an inhale or an exhale. Just a breath. Just take the hands to the heart and lift the elbows a little bit. So a little bit of upper back activation, but notice if the shoulders lifted at the same time. So if they did, just take a moment just to ease out between the neck and the shoulders, just like the shoulders and the ears. And we're going to inhale or exhale, doesn't matter. We're just going to breathe it up. Take the fingertips up to the sky. Good. And then breathe the arms all the way around and back to the heart again. And then breathe the arms back up. And breathe them around. And again, just keep that lovely flow. So find your pace. Find how your breath is moving. Maybe you want to take a pause at the top and then around. And if you take that pause at the top, sometimes we can slightly over squeeze at the neck. So make sure that engagement is coming around the shoulder blades, which works around the thoracic region so that your upper back is moving. So just keep that movement going, warming up gently through the shoulders, not the neck, if you can avoid it. And if the mind wanders, bring it back to the breath. Again, treating this as a mindful movement. So when it's difficult, particularly at the start of a class, to bring the mind to a still point, and find you're able to do so with a bit of movement attached to the breath. And just for the next couple of rounds, if you've been breathing it upwards with the inhale, how about you pause and take an exhale? So just, or if you've been breathing upwards with the exhale, breathe upwards with the inhale. Just seeing how much difference or what a change that breath can make to how you feel in the movement. Maybe it actually feels like you can take the shoulder blades down the spine a bit further with this altered breath. Good. Now bring the hands to the knees and just rounding spine a little bit. So just being aware. It might feel a little tight in the upper spine or the lower spine, just being aware. And again, with whatever breath works, lengthen and open to a form of cow. So feeling that length all the way up the spine so it curls nicely rather than just being pushed into position. And then again, roll yourself around into a form of cat. Now, let the pelvis gently move underneath you. And then tilt the pelvis away slightly as you come into your cow. So the whole body kind of rocks a little bit forward. And then you can almost exaggerate it and tilt a little bit backwards. So the spine actually starts to tilt backwards on the cow, or the hips go backwards. And then the whole spine moves forward. So starting to get lovely movement out of the hips. And rolling it backwards. Now again, just check which way the breath is moving. Is it the inhale? Is it the exhale? Can you attach each movement to the breath? And then just switch the breath around. So if you've been doing that inhale to come into your cow, change it to the exhale. And so that you inhale into a cat, or vice versa. But keeping that lovely movement. If it's a bit much to focus on the breath and take the movement, just take a little shallow movement and warm it up. So now the whole body might be, well, the whole torso from the hip flexors all the way up to the crown of the head, getting a little bit more involved. There's a bit of neck movement going on. And the whole, hopefully, thoracic spine is beginning to feel like it's had a lovely move around. Bring it back to center, and let's take the left hand to the right knee and the right hand to the shoulder. Just lift the elbow a little bit without drawing yourself up really towards the ear. And let's rotate to that right side. So allowing the right chest to open rather than twisting from the lower back. It's an opening through the upper body. The lower back follows as a result. Sheila, you're struggling with some. It'll go in a sec. There isn't much, but good. And then bring that slowly back to center. Roll that right shoulder around. Yeah, it'll go in a second. Then we'll open it. And then bring it to the other side. So other shoulder. I'll open it in a minute. And other hand to the knee and rotate. And again, opening from the left shoulder so that we're not cranking from the lower back. Good. Have you noticed a breath here? And bring it all the way back to center. Drop the right hand, lift the left one, really reach up to the sky. So reach up to reach over so that we're not just kind of collapsing. We've got this kind of arch going on out of the left hip. Good. Lovely. Can you slightly roll forward a little bit? Turn the face towards the floor and then open out and maybe look up to the sky. And again, take that movement very gently. We're just going to do this a few times, but with the breath, exhaling or inhaling, opening up with the exhale or the inhale. Yeah. Lovely. And then switch that breath for the last 2 rounds. And bring, when you're ready, all the way back to center. So that right side might be feeling a little bit kind of moved around. Give it a squid. Other side. Now reach up to the sky. Really, really reach. Drop the elbow and reach over. That's it. And you can take that lovely movement. You can roll it forward, roll it up to the sky, roll it forward gently. Notice which breath you're attaching to start. And then switch that breath around. You'll have to pause in one place. Notice if there's a particular place in the back that this is pulling. Obviously, if it's in the actual lower back, right down the spine, just be a little careful, perhaps come out of it. But otherwise, we should be moving nicely and warming up those lovely big backs. Brilliant. Bring it back to center. And give that, again, a little bit of a roll around. Bring the knees up when you're ready. Let's flip over onto all fours. Good. And from your all fours, just start straight away moving, just intuitive moving. Seeing how that feels. Now, you can put, obviously, if those of you who've got sore knees, and some days we do and some days we don't, let's place a blanket underneath them just so that, or 2 blankets. I think I've got lots at the back. There's a big box bag of them. I'll get you some. Okay, just starting moving around the sides of the body. A little bit of a shimmy with the shoulders, maybe. If you've got Kirsten. Where am I taking it? Easing yourself around. Okay, let's come back to stillness and take the right leg out behind you. Let's tuck those toes in, and we're just going to move around the wrists and the ankle. So very carefully, if it's too much the wrists, please just bring the forearms down. But we're just going to move yourself forward so that we roll over the front of the foot and roll over the back. Good. Rolling that around. Now take it back. This time, just going to roll the heels side to side. So just let the heel flop side to side. A little bit of movement out of the actual hip rather than controlling it from the knee. Just let that heel roll side to side. Imagine it coming a sort of a long line rotation out of the hip joint. And bring it back to center. Good. And then let's just bend the knee. Sole of the foot, plant it on the sky. Now draw the belly back so that you're not sagging in the middle. And we're just going to squeeze that right glute. Squeeze that right glute. And as it does, it just gently lifts that foot towards the sky. Make sure the hip flexors, that the thigh is not doing that. Just take a few of those, just squeezing it. Let's just activate those glutes so we spend the rest of the session working the glutes where we need to and not creating more tension in any hip flexors or quads or lower backs. So good if you wake up ever with a little bit of a grippy, or you get a bit of a grippy hip flexor during the day. Okay, let's bring that down, knee back down, and send the left foot away and let it stretch out and let it roll forward. So you're taking a bit of weight onto the hands as you go back. So if you know your hands aren't so good with this, or your wrists aren't so good, you must take it down to the elbows, just forwards and back Forwards and back, and then take it back and let the heel roll side to side. That's it. All the way out of the hip socket. So you're not rolling it from the knee or from the ankle. Okay, bring it back to center, plant the sole of that foot on the sky. Now, most people have a lazy side. So really find your way into the bottom, into those glutes, and squeeze the glute to affect the gentle lift of the foot. So it's really tiny, barely perceptible movement. And every now and again, there will be a big old movement, and that's, you'll notice the difference. You can try it. It's just the hip flexors and the thighs over. Good. Pop that on the floor. Take the knees nice and wide. Sit the hips back and take a lovely stretch through there. Notice again, you can move around. Give a little sway to the hips to ease them back, perhaps. Stretch the arms out in front of you. Let the sway come all the way from the palms of the hands down the back and into the hips. So notice what you need to take out of this easing out in child's pose. Good. Okay, we're going to ease it back onto all fours. Good, and take the right leg out behind you again, and then once more lift the belly so that the lower back isn't kind of hanging down. You haven't got a massive dip in the lower back, and we're going to use those hip flex and hip movements again. So we're taking the right foot, you'll need to lift up, and if you need to use blocks, use blocks. Taking that right foot up to the hands. Good. Uncurl, lift on up, squeeze that left glute again, lift those arms up, draw the elbows down to your cactus, a bit of movement, hands down, and take it back. Runner's lunge. Good. Run curl, push down on that foot, open up, and take it down. Good. Take it all the way back, runner's lunge. Okay, good. That's it. Use, if you've got a couple of blocks, you've got one there behind you. That's it. Keep moving. That's it. So you can use one on each side. That's it. So that you're not taking your head down. That's it. And it doesn't matter if the knee is bent when you come back into the runner's lunge. This is the last one. When you come up next time, let's stay up there. Catch hold of the left wrist. Lift it up to the sky. Now a little lateral hip flexor stretch. So you're heading towards the knee side. So if your right knee is in front, you're going to the right side. Okay, so you want to reach up. So rather than collapsing, let's reach up. Good. You can turn the chest again a little bit. So a little bit more out of that hip. So you're going to the right side. So you're reaching up and you can gently lean forward a little bit. You turn to the right and you gently lean forward. You can, if you've got that left glute squeezed, you can take the hips slightly forward. So you can play around a little bit with that movement. Lift it all the way back up. Take it down. Just take the hands either to blocks or to the fingers. We're going to extend that lunge a little bit. So squeeze the pelvis underneath you and take the movement forward. If you just take it forward into this massive kind of overstretch, all you're doing is pulling the hip socket apart. So tuck the pelvis under and then move forward. It's a whole different movement. That's it. You might find that a bit more in that right hip flexor, a little bit. It might be squeezing at the front there. Good. Bring that back. Now, hands to blocks or floor. Take that leg back, give it a shake out. Good. Left side, bring it all the way in. Tuck it under, lift it up, arms down to cactus, take it down, float it back. So use your blocks where you need to. Bring it forward, lift it up, cactus. Good, take it forward. Lovely. Up. Remember to squeeze that right glute as you go up. Lovely. Lengthen it up. Take it down. Last one, take it all the way up. Good. Lovely. Catch hold of the right wrist and gently lean over to the left side. So you're lifting up and across. And when you feel comfortable with that, you can rotate a little bit more towards the front. So it's a kind of lift and a rotation and a fold if you can. That's it. Just a little upper back kind of movements, just so it intensifies a bit more through that right hip and glute. Good. Bring that back to the front. Take the hands down to the floor, tuck the pelvis right underneath you if it isn't already. So you've got this kind of lovely sense of lift, and move the hips slightly forward so you're not hanging like that would be a massive hang. You can get to the same place, but you want to squeeze a little bit more in the front of that left hip flexor. Doing this. Everyone got that? Understand what I mean? Yeah. Good. Let's take that back. Both hands on the floor. Stretch the left leg out, right leg out. Doesn't matter which one. We're stretching both legs out. Good. So you're coming into your plank. Draw the belly up and gently uncurl to your downward facing dog. Good. Move the feet around a little bit. We're coming back to your plank. And again, if your shoulders, wrists aren't up to this, just come down onto the floor and let's do half down dogs. So bring it all the way back to your plank. And then lift up through the belly and send it back. Let that, feels almost like you've got somewhat a sort of strap around the middle. It's lifting you up to the sky, so you kind of roll over the toes and come back to your plank. And then lift up through the middle again and come to your downward facing dog. So try and use the hips as your hydraulics rather than your shoulders. Good. Bring yourself back to plank. Drop those knees, and we're going to come into down dog the way we usually come into it, which is hips back, bear crawl, lift the knees off the floor so the hips are right back, and then lift the glutes so that the spine is already in its lovely long position. Sarah, you can stay on hands and knees. That's it. That's fine. You can come into plank if you want to. Good. Lovely. And from here, we're going to walk those hands all the way back to standing forward bend. Sarah, just come up to stand. Everyone else that's standing forward bend. Hands kind of come together like your trunk. Do you remember we did this kind of elephant trunk? So you're sort of swaying like the whole torso all the way down to the fingertips is that lovely elephant trunk, and we're just swaying it around. Good. And bring it back to center. Soften the knees. And let's uncurl. So to uncurl, make sure the fingers are sliding up the legs. Hips come through. And open. Lovely. We want to grab a block. That nice chair flow, but I'm going to add more to it. Squeeze the insides of the legs onto the block and then soften it. And what we want to do is squeeze up the leg instead of squeezing in so much. So that we'll get the squeeze in by squeezing it up. So inhaling from the ankles all the way up to the inner groins. And you'll get this sense of you're lifting that block as opposed to squeezing that block. Basically taking a nice activation of that body. Good. So if at any point the block feels too wide, flip it over, or in the wrong place, move it, or you don't want the block, just move it. Okay, we're going to plant the feet, take the arms out, and let's take that little roll. Do you remember we did a little sort of soften upper back? So bending the knees slightly. You can round and sort of hug the air in front, a little bit of a rounding of the upper back. And then as you come open, let's just straighten the legs and come up to tiptoes. Well, when I say straighten the legs, a little bit of bend. Drawing up the inner thighs or insides of the legs so that you've got that pause. Good. And then bring it down. Let's take the arms along, out beside you into your chair pose. Exhale or inhale, doesn't matter. Just breathe into that rounding of the back again. Good. And then push the floor away to come back to central. Good. Let's take that again. Rounding of the back. Find the movement of the breath. Just a natural movement to you. Breathe it up to standing up onto tiptoes. Pause. And then breathe it down into your chair pose. And rounding the arms in front. And then push the floor away. Standing, let's do another. Breathing that through. Almost like you're kind of pushing your way through the air around you. You're sort of moving through this sort of gravity-free space. Pausing at the top if you can, and then rolling those feet down, taking the arms beside you and opening into your chair. Now, while we're in this one, let's take the arms in front and then take them down alongside you. So again, you're moving as if you're pushing your way through gravity. Just a few forward and back. Last one, take it back and round the arms to push. To come to standing. Good. Come and pause for a moment. Roll those shoulders around. Give it a bit of wiggle. Draw up through the insides of the legs. Push the feet down towards the floor. So you feel really supported, really engaged. You've got this really nice cradle of support around the core. Let's take those arms, breathe them up, and we're going to curling it all the way down. So some nice roll ups. So we've done these lying on our backs, rolling up and rolling down. Let's do it standing. So keep drawing up. So when you get to the bottom, wherever the bottom is for you, draw up through the insides of the legs. Now, some of you will want to curl your way back up, which is great. If you feel you've got a bit more in you and you want to stretch the arms in front and lift with a strut flat back, that's entirely up to you. Okay. And take the arms down, and we'll do that a couple more times. So I'd like you to really make that choice as to whether you're rolling or you're lengthening. And therefore, you can start to lengthen forward if you know that that's for you, but otherwise, roll it. But for you, yeah, just take a few of those. But slow so that you really work with the back. So let's take 2 or 3 more of those. That's it. And I know you don't want to drop the head, but you can actually lengthen out the back of the head. That's it. Just so you see that shoulders. Yeah, it's probably very tempting. So why don't you keep those arms between the ears a little bit more. So soften at the elbows, so rather than quite so rigid. That's it. Yeah. Soften. Use the belly, draw it back, lengthen tailbone. Okay. Next time you curl all the way down, let's stay down there. Take the block away and step back to your downward facing dog, just to your knees. So, sorry, everyone else downward facing dog, Sarah, to your knees. Okay, lovely. And then drop everyone to your knees. Take the knees nice and wide. For you, use a block so the head doesn't drop. Yeah. Everyone into extended child's pose. Lovely, great. Lovely. And from extended child's pose, uncurl back up onto all fours. Push back to downward facing dog. Good. Once more, knees to floor, extended child's pose, wide knees. Take the arms across, this time to the left. Reaching out through the side body. Good. Bring it back to center. Bring it across to the right. Really reaching through that left side of the body. And bring it back to center. And then once more, tuck the toes, push back. If you're coming to downward facing dog, take downward facing dog, otherwise onto knees. Good. Left knee goes to the floor, or step the right foot forward, whichever you're used to doing. Drop the left knee. Lift and open the chest. Good. Step the left leg forward. Standing forward fold. Good. We're going to take the right knee back to the floor. So we're not rolling up just yet. Right knee back. Tuck the toes. Step back to your plank. Slowly sink the hips down. So sorry. You can get 20 minutes here. Try and stick it behind mine. Good, lovely. Okay, and then from here, everyone roll up onto all fours, walk the hands all the way back and uncurl to standing, forward bend, and all the way back up to standing. Good. Take a big step up to the front of the mat. And let's take a full vinyasa. Inhale, arms come up. Exhale, fold it all the way forward. Either roll or lengthening it out, whichever works for you. Good. Lift halfway. And exhale, fold. And let's take the right leg back again. Let's take it back to knee to the floor. Right hand goes down and rotates. And nice, lovely rotation. Good. Okay, take that all the way back down and step back to your plank. Good. Drop those knees if you're using a blanket, pop them on the blanket, and then come all the way down onto your belly. So knees and chest, belly down, forehead down, arms all the way out in front of you into your extended Tadasana, but supine on the floor. Good, forehead down, lovely. Now gently tuck the pelvis underneath you so you're pressing the hips to the floor. So you've got a lovely support for the lower back, and you're going to walk those hands across to the left so we get a nice stretch out of the right side. Good, so ease them around. Good, bring it back to center and ease them across to the other side. Good, and bring it back to center. Hands underneath you. Pop the hands beside the chest. And again, tuck the pelvis underneath you if it's gone the other way. Push the hips down and gently lift the chest. So keep the neck in line with the spine so it's not hanging down and it's not lifting or throwing itself back. Lovely. Use the hands a little bit. Squeeze the elbows into the sides. Use those arms to support you. Take the face down to the floor. And once more, push back onto all fours. If you're happy to come back to downward facing dog, let's do that. And then that right foot steps all the way forward. And you're going to uncurl it up to the sky. Good. And take the hands all the way down. Step the left foot forward. And uncurl. Well done. It's all right. Most of us have had a run in and something. Yeah. Okay, let's do that to the other side. Exhale forward and I'll talk to you that way. Lift and lengthen. Fold it down. So you're Ardha Uttanasana, back to Uttanasana, and let's step that left leg back. Plant the left hand, take the right hand to the sky, nice rotation. Open out through the chest. And take the hand down. Step it back to your plank. Good, drop those knees, chest, and come all the way down. So forehead goes down and stretch the arms. So back to your supine Tadasana. Good, all the way out, nice humble pose. Tuck the pelvis so the hips are pressing into the floor so you're not going to be using your lower back to do any movements. And this time walk the hands to the right and stretch out to that left side. Maybe bring the hands together. Lovely, reach out to the left side of the body. You can even scoot the feet to the right as well if that doesn't trouble your lower back. And you can straighten everything up and walk it on over to the other side. Now the feet can go as well, but be aware of anything in the SI joints, lower back, can be troublesome. Good. Brilliant. Bring that back to center. Tuck those hands underneath you. This time, take the palms of the hands to the corners of your mat. Elbows down. So for some of you, we're going to lift into Sphinx pose. but a wide arm Sphinx pose. So you've got to broaden across the chest. So remember to tuck the pelvis so you're not taking it in the lower back. For those of you who like a little bit more extension, please feel free to lengthen out the arms. But you can, you know, do the same thing with the elbows bent, same thing with the elbows on the floor. What we want is that extension rather than the head being tipped back. Okay, so glutes are really strong here. Bottom's really squeezing, pelvis is really sinking down, and you're lengthening. Good. Take it all the way down. Tuck the toes, hands back, push back. If you're going to downward facing dog, if you're not, stay low. Lovely. And from here, we're stepping the left foot forward. You can drop the right knee or step it through and then drop. Left arm goes up to the sky. Take that rotation. Notice if one side is a bit tighter than the other, and again, fit the breath in. Hand down, step the other leg forward, and roll up. Good, last one. Let's go straight into it. Curl it all the way down. All the way up, halfway, half rise, and fold it all the way down. Good. We're going to step straight back this time to downward facing dog. Or onto knees. Everyone's going to come to knees anyway in a second. So wiggle around. If you're in your downward facing dog, let's just wiggle. We're going to drop the knees, and you're going to replant that right hand so that it comes underneath the shoulder. Those of you who are happy coming into a side plank, feel free to come into a side plank. Otherwise, scoot around on that right knee to face the left side. So if you're in a full-on side plank, your left foot is in front of the right. So top foot goes forwards. That's it. Take the left hand down. If you're happy to swivel straight to the other side, swivel straight to the other side. Now, the best thing to do here is to keep the glutes engaged, and so that the hips are coming forwards and through rather than pushing backwards behind you. Brilliant. Michelle, onto your forearm. Sorry, anyone, onto your forearm if you need to. Good. Okay, rotate it all the way back to center. Good, lovely. Drop the knees down if they're not already, and let's lower all the way down to the floor. Let's keep the hands, take the hands back to corners of the mat. Gently look into a cobra. So you're going to squeeze the glutes down towards the floor, lift into a nice cobra. Now lengthen the back of the neck so that the chin is slightly tucking, and then rotate to that right side. All the way around. Look at the right toes. Maybe you can even see the left toes. Bring it back to center, take a pause if you need to. And then let's go around to the left. So really squeeze the glutes so that you're not hanging out in the lower back, and all the way back to center. Good. This time, you're going to stretch the arms, both of them straight out in front of you, forehead goes down, and you're going to bring the right arm, once you're there, so stretch all the way down, head down, right elbow comes down, left knee comes up. That's it. And notice how that again creates, you can take the right hand to the floor, creates one of those little curls to the right hand side. Slide the right knee away, that right arm goes over the head, left hand comes back, right knee comes up, and we take one of those. Little kind of puppy curl. Okay, stretch the arm away, because we haven't done them for a couple of weeks. Right hand down, right knee up. So like a Spider-Man crawl. Push and lift and rotate to look at that foot, but the hip will probably be in the way. And slide it away. One more each side, and then we're going to roll. Do you remember we've done our rolls? So you've got a sore hip, just watch out for that one. But it might help ease it a little bit. Bring it back to center. Now this time, we're going to take the right hand, right knee towards each other at the side. Pick the torso up, and then you're going to drop onto that. The left ear is going to go onto the top of the left arm, push with the right hand, and just roll the upper back over. So the right knee stays to the left side, but that right arm comes out, and so you're in a nice side angle stretch. Lovely. So that right arm goes all the way behind you, and you roll over, the upper back goes down. Lovely. Now, straighten the top leg. So you're going to straighten that right leg. Hurts your shoulder. Okay. So stay down here. If you're all the way over, bring yourself over and take. If you're happy on your left arm, doesn't matter if you want to change and put the head down on the floor. That might even be better for some of you. We want to stretch that right leg and right arm in opposite directions. So that'll be your top leg, and your back arm in opposite direction. So you've got a real stretch there. So the right leg is heading off to the left side and the right arm is heading to the right side. So you've got a lovely cross-body stretch there. Reach out. Lovely. And then push and come back onto your belly again. So we'll just do that once on the other side. Okay. I'm very confused there. We'll do it again. It's fine. Okay, stretch it out. Tuck the pelvis under so that the hips are engaged. Draw the left hand down to the chest. Right, left knee comes up towards the hip. Push on the left hand. Leave the left knee pretty much, it can lift up, obviously it lifts up off the floor, but you're rolling the upper back onto the floor and the left hand goes behind you. That's it. Now, take that left arm up over the ear so that it can start to trail. It has a chance of trailing along the floor. That's it. You're just working with that back rotation. Good, shoulder mobility. If you want to, you can stretch point the left toes. That's your top foot, point the top foot, and point the left fingers. So you're stretching in opposite direction. Now move your body around so that it starts to feel comfortable. If you need to, bring yourself onto your back and come into it. That's it. Move that arm around. Move it down so it's lower to the torso if that's too much for your shoulder, particularly if you've had a past injury. Okay. That's it. Stretch the foot and the fingers in opposite direction. Good. Bring it around. So come back. Bring that left arm back over, back onto your belly. Hands beside you. Push back. Push all the way back. Let's take a child's pose there. Stretch and release. Either wide knee or close knees, up to you. Good. Now we're going to uncurl onto all fours, tuck the toes under, walk those hands back. Roll over the feet. Standing forward bend, stay low. Stay low. Good. Keep those knees soft and then uncurl. All the way up. Good. Rotate the shoulders. Okay, and let's take the feet a little bit apart and let's take some figures of 8 with the arm. Now, we've been doing this a bit, so don't worry if you haven't done this one with us before, but those of you who can fit in your figure of 8, so widen the feet, that lovely figure of 8 around the feet and then bringing it up to the hips so that it's not a kind of swivel of the hips, but we're moving around a lovely figure of 8. If that arm movement wants to come a bit wider, rotate through the palm. Imagine you've got your block. If you want to, you can put your block on it. It's a bit more difficult to do a figure of 8 and then you don't get, but it keeps your wrists nice and stable if you're a little bit unsure. Good, and let's switch that to the other arm. Just releasing out anything that might have felt a little bit unstable or a little bit trapped, perhaps. You don't have to move the body, the torso around at the same time, obviously. Moving the palm so that the arm gets lovely movement in all directions. Okay, and let's see if we just bring the both of them. So if you bring the torso into this, let's think about taking that left hip clockwise, and then you take it around to the right, and the right hip goes anti-clockwise. So you keep closing the hips in. No, doesn't help. Doesn't help. Okay, so think about your corners of your circles of your 8, and you're coming around the outside and then coming in. So rather than moving them out and kind of squishing at the pelvic, at the lower back, we're soothing it if there's been anything going on at all during this. Let's bring that back to center. And with feet nice and wide, take yourself sideways on your mat. We'll just turn the right foot up towards the top of the mat, turn the left foot slightly in, find your warrior two. Soften that front knee. Left glute engages, supports. Take your jumper off, find your warrior two. Lovely. So one or two of you got a different foot, that's fine. I'm gonna keep going on the right foot at the front. So just you've got your left. No, not yet. It's okay. Just do it back. Check that front knee. Check it. That's the one. That's where we're working. Is that stability through there? Lovely. Let's take the left hand down to the thigh. Right palm goes up. Take your lovely reverse again. Lateral line. Reach up and out. Good. And then bring that back to warrior two. Right elbow goes down. Left arm lifts up. If you want to stretch that longer, remember lateral line, you're coming out of that left hip. So you want that sense of lift rather than collapse. Lovely. Push off the feet to bring yourself all the way back to center. Take the hands to the hips, swivel on that back foot. Front knee stays bent. You may want to block in front of you. You may not. We're going for some balance. Step onto that right foot, okay? What we want to do here is rather than kind of lift the foot, we just want to get a sense of rolling onto that front foot. It doesn't matter how high it comes up for a warrior three. You can use a block in front of you. But it makes it a whole lot more stable if you have this sense of being able to literally peel the back foot, but by the transference of weight to the front foot. So the front knee is bent as you start. And then lengthening it back onto the floor. So you don't have to stay there. If you're finding it hard, you just take a little forward and a little bit of back. Good. And then next time you come forward, we do want to block. We're going to take the hand to the right hand to the block. Right foot down, right hand down. If you're on your left foot, it's the left hand. Left hand to lower back. Those of you who know your Ardha Chandrasana, your half moon, please feel free. Left leg heads out, left arm can either be on lower back or up to the sky. Fantastic, lovely balance place there. That's absolutely great. Don't get any further down than that. Reaching and opening through sides of the body. Lovely, Gigi. Great. And then step that left foot back to your warrior two. Super. Close the legs to the front, soften the knees. Hands on hip bones, fold forward. All the way forward. Good, lovely. We're going to take a little bit of a side stretch and hamstring movement. So soften those knees down. Let the hands come to the floor. One hand to each foot, perhaps the same foot and hand. The right hand goes down. Now use a block here if it's a bit far. But keep those knees bent, okay? Because we're going to straighten them in a minute. So left hand rotates to the sky. So you've just got this rotation. It's much better for you to have a soft knees to take this rotation. It gives you more space to do that. Left hand goes down, right arm goes up. So you just lean to each side. Good. Take both hands down. You might want to block. We're going to lift the hips. So instead of lifting the chest or straightening the backs of the knees, lift the hips to the backs of the legs open and then soften them down. Once more, left hand goes up. Right hand goes up, back to center, and lift the hips. Good. Give it back to those legs. A little bit of something to think about. Soften those knees. Let's rotate around. We did start 5 minutes late, so we may just be a little bit over. Rotate around and turn those feet to the back of the mat and uncurl. So to come up from this way, tuck the pelvis under, push the feet to the floor, and let the legs be your hydraulics. So you lift up into your warrior two on this side. So your left foot should be in front. Doesn't matter if you're heading to the back of the mat. You know what you're doing. Great. Right hand heads down, left hand goes up, reverse warrior. Super. Tuck the pelvis underneath you so it's not a massive overstretch in the lower back. We're opening the left side of the body, left rib cage. Good. Back to warrior two. And so it's just, we're going to side angle. So remember, it's just the top of the body moving, those hips And those legs are your structure, they're your scaffolding. We don't want those moving around. Reach it out. Open out the front of that right hip flexor, tuck the pelvis underneath you. Push the floor away so you feel really stable. Good. Lift yourself back to your warrior two. Good. Hands to hips. Now pick up that right heel and swivel to the back. You might want your block. And we're going to transfer the weight to your warrior three. Take the hands into any hand position that you prefer, but also you can take it to a block. So thinking about it as just a transference of the weight, doesn't have to come up high, then you take it back if you want to, or you pause in your warrior three. So you're working with the muscles in the left leg here. Good. If you want to pause in your warrior three, do so. And then transfer that warrior three to your Ardha Chandrasana. Good. So Ardha Chandrasana, left foot down. So something always to be aware of in this is that left foot turning in to support you. Think about how that's playing up the rest of the body. If you turn that foot in, you've got a rotation in an internal rotation through the hip as you're trying to send your body in another direction. So remember, we've done this against the wall, so you're very welcome. I think the radiators might be hot, but find a bit of wall. Gigi's doing it. Good. Lovely. And when you've done that, step back to your warrior two. Turn the toes frontwards, soften the knees. This time we're going to interlock the hands on the lower back and fold forward. Lift the bottom to open out the legs rather than pushing the backs of the knees. So better to keep the knees bent and lift the hips. That's it. Lovely. If you can then lift the hips and straighten the legs, do so. Give those arms a lovely, you can lift them up and away, and then take them down onto the lower back. Good. And release and uncurl. Walk the feet a little bit further in, not too far. We're going to turn the toes out and we're going to come down to a squat. If you know the squat doesn't work for you, then just come down on your bottom. We're going to actually, from the squat, take yourself down to the floor, but we are going to come up onto your knees. Last pose, gateway pose, well, sort of last. Turn the left foot out to the side. Okay, so it's going to be difficult for most of us to have the foot down. That's quite a lot on the old hip flexor. So you can just turn the toe up to the sky. If you find the toe comes down, please go ahead. Right arm up to the sky and reaching out again along those lines of the side of the body. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pick it up and you're going to move this left leg out 45 degrees. Now squeeze that right glute and you're going to fold down that leg that's at an angle. Well, to the side, anyway. That's it. And pick it up. And then you're going to take it back out to 90 degrees. And fold down. So now we've done, bring it up, bring the knee in, take it out. We've done such lots of lovely movement that this should feel actually quite achievable now. So squeeze the glutes forward. We don't want the bottom heading backwards. So straight out to the side to start and pick it up out to 45 degrees. Good. And pick it up and back out to the side. Good. And pick it up. Good. Back onto all fours. Good. Let the bottom come back out and sort of forwards and back. Well, do you remember we've done this before? We've done it sort of sitting. We've done it in all sorts of places. We take that top up, that one arm up and over. Lovely movement for the whole of the back. Bring the following arm around and then bring that one up. So if I come back to the front and then you come back and over, so that right arm will come back, hips come down, hips go slightly back, bring it around, and then the left arm takes over to bring it back up to the top. And then the right arm goes down, left arm follows, but it takes over. Let the shoulders soften, let the neck soften. Good. And then we're going to come all the way down onto your backs. Take a big breath and release. So when you're ready, goodness, time just flies. All the way down onto your back. Good. Lovely. Bring the right knee into the body. Give it a little gentle squeeze in. Hands around the front of the shin. If that's a bit painful for the knee, around the back of the thigh. Good. You can stretch the right leg out if that's comfortable. Good. Stretch the leg up to the sky. Point the toe and flex. Good. And then bring that right knee in and place the left foot or whichever ankle you've got over the top into your figure 4 pose. Hold behind the back of the right leg or left leg, whichever one you've got. Now, you've got something there. Do you want a blanket there? Good, and gently release that. Let's take it to the other side, bend the knee in, the other knee in. Stretch the other leg out. See, it's on the stretching side that you actually want to get this kind of sense of length down the side of the belly. I sometimes do this with my hips slightly raised, but next week we'll make time to do that. Lift the right leg up to the sky. It can be a really nice release if you get a bit tight around the hip flexors. It just releases out all those internal big strong muscles. Reach it up, point and flex. Really soft the hamstrings, and then into your lovely figure 4. Good. And release, plant both feet on the floor. Tilt the pelvis towards you, so draw the belly down towards the spine and peel the lower back up and off and come into your bridge pose and open out through the front of the body, just releasing. And then roll the body down. You can either stretch the legs out for the last 30 seconds, minute, or you can keep the knees bent. Let's place the hands on the rib cage, fingertips touching, and just breathing for your Shavasana into your rib cage. Make sure you're super comfy, give the hips a wiggle, give the knees a wiggle, shoulders a wiggle. And gently softening into. Now you're all so used to your Shavasana, you know how you can just drop straight in. You find that place that feels like home, feels like it's that space that supports you both internally and externally, mentally and physically, and emotionally. Just taking time out, finding that movement of the breath. Quality of the breath. Smoothness, but also being aware of the vitality, the strength of the breath. Knowing how the breath can support you. So deepening the breath a little bit more, expanding a little bit more now through the rib cage. Stronger expansion of the inhale, knowing that that's working all the way down to your pelvic floor. And then that lovely, slow, deep release, that everything, the diaphragm, pelvic floor, arches of the feet, crown of the head, it all settles back on that exhale, bringing really nice tone and stability. And feeling that vitality, that aliveness, that strength of the breath and the body moving together. And with that sense of vigor, stability, let's gently release the hands and start rolling the knees a little bit side to side. You can roll the head a little bit side to side. You could stretch out the arms and stretch out the legs. and roll to one side to lift yourself up. I'm just going to sit for a minute and just noticing. Noticing the breath, that lovely, stable, energizing inhale, exhale. And feeling ready to face the day, whatever it brings. And knowing there's always that space that you can just head back to when things get a bit tough or out of kilter. So when you're ready, let the eyes refocus, take in the world on your terms, starting it off again on your terms. Thank you all very, very much for joining me. Switch off the recording.